All right, welcome back. Now we're going to get into the college football playoff. I know it's not about a month away. Got some time, guys like ourselves, to put these things together. So the first matchup, Alabama, Roll Tide, #1 against Ohio State. Urban Meyers, just a great team. He always puts off some great product no matter who the quarterback is. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. What do you look forward to in this game, and who do you think wins it?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is how well Cordell Jones handles the Alabama defense. Obviously, always one of the best in the country. Facing a third-string quarterback, J.T. Barrett's second start, or at least second game he played in, was the Virginia Tech game that they lost. Now Cordell Jones is playing his second game against Alabama. That's going to be a struggle for him. So I look for that to be the key matchup. If Cordell Jones handles it with any kind of consistency and can just stay calm and especially if they can get ahead early. That's big for Ohio State, to get ahead early, get Cordell Jones relaxed and settled in. If they can do that, they have a chance. With that being said, though, I think that losing Cordell Jones really hurt him. I think J.T. Barrett being in this game would have been great help for Ohio State. So I'll take Alabama, probably running away a little bit late. Their offense is much better than it has been in previous years. I would say something 37-20, Alabama.
Darian, what do you look forward to?
I'm looking forward to seeing how Amari Cooper handles the Ohio State defense. I think Ohio State is a young, talented team on both sides of the ball, but I think losing not one but two quarterbacks is too much to overcome. When you talk about Nick Saban's Alabama program, I think J.T. Barrett would have been a help. I think Braxton Miller would make the game very, very interesting. But even if they had Braxton Miller or J.T. Barrett, I would struggle picking them over Alabama because the way they play defense, which is not as good as it is in most years, but they're a much more explosive offense with Amari Cooper. They throw the ball a lot better. They still have T.J. Yeldon running the football. They can still run it down your throat when they need to. And I think that balance that they have now on offense is going to be what decides the game. And I think Alabama will probably win comfortably. I would probably go in the 35-20 range.
Shabazz, what do you look forward to?
I'm actually looking forward. It's going to be a great coaching matchup. Old SEC.
Those are the two best coaches in college
football.
football.
Urban Meyer, Nick Saban. But I think, like Chris said, the third-string quarterback, Cordell Jones, trying to overcome an Alabama defense that, when Nick Saban gets time, he's second to none. He has a whole month prepared. He's going to throw looks at him that he hasn't seen yet. And I just think the front seven of Alabama is different than any other front seven Nick Saban has had. They have pass rushers from everywhere. They can just throw them at you, keep rotating. They don't get tired, And I feel like Ohio State's going to struggle on offense. And I would probably say the game is going to be, in my eyes, 41-21 Alabama. I think the Alabama offense, Derrick Henry, T.J. Yeldon, Amari Cooper, Blake Sims. I just feel like it's too much for the young Ohio State Buckeyes to overcome, especially with a third-string quarterback. But I'm picking Alabama.
I agree with you guys. Talk about a coaching matchup. I think the last few times these guys played, the last time was the SC Championship game where Nick Saban knocked out Tim Tebow's Florida Gators, Tebow's last game. But I think that you give both of these coaches time. I think they're both going to be prepared. I think he's going to prepare Cordell Jones. Some of the looks he may see from Alabama, the great front seven. Secondary, not that great, but do have some good players in the back end as well. But I think Alabama, just Amari Cooper, probably could possibly be the number one pick in the draft, Heisman Trophy finalist, the ability to still run football. And how about Blake Sims? Being a character and a team guy, was a running back, switched over. Lane Kiffin, that offense looks great, second to none. One of the best offenses in the country. How many times you said that about Alabama? A quarterback can not only throw, but run as well. And I just think they're a little bit too much for Ohio State. Urban Meyer's done a great job, but losing not only J.T. Barrett, but Braxton Miller, be a little bit too much. I think Alabama will win about 10. I think Roll Tide, they'll move on to the championship game. So our second matchup is probably the one I think a little bit of everyone is looking forward to. The Rose Bowl, Oregon, not too far from, where they're from in Washington, taking on the undefeated Florida State Seminoles, the much maligned undefeated Florida State Seminoles, Jameis Winston. So Shabazz, I'm going to start with you this time. What do you look forward to in that matchup?
I'm looking for the QB matchup. Mariota, the Heisman, he's going to win it this year. And the last Heisman, Jameis Winston. In this game, Florida State's defense, they will be tested with the offense that can put up points and put them up quickly. I look for this game, probably be a shootout, Jameis and Mariota. But I'm going to, surprisingly, the winning streak is going to be over. Mariota's finally going to win that big game, and he's going to move on to the championship game against Alabama. But I think Jameis, he won't go away without a fight. But I just feel like he's going to make that one mistake in this game that they can't recover from. And, the Florida State champs are going to finally be put to rest.
All right, Chris, who you look forward to?
But the matchup I'm looking forward to is the Florida State offense against the Oregon defense. Last time we saw Oregon, they dominated the Pac-12 championship game against an Arizona team that beat them. They're healthy now as to where they weren't earlier in the season when they lost to Arizona. That defense looked dominant against a very good Arizona offense. I think Jameis is going to struggle a little bit. Maybe not Jameis himself, but the offense in general. They're just the team in general is just not as good as they were last year. So I think Oregon's offense is going to be able to put up points, and Jameis may struggle a little bit. So I would look somewhere around maybe in the 40s to 28, probably 45-28 Oregon. Like Shabazz says, that offense is just so tough to stop, and the defense has really got a lot of confidence now after their Pac-12 championship win. I look for Oregon to win this game going away late.
Darian, who you rolling?
I'm going with Oregon, and I think the reason is Florida State lost a lot of key defensive pieces to the NFL last year. We're talking about Joyner playing corner, Timmy Jernigan at D-line, and Terrence Brooks played safety great for them last year. They also lost Carolina Panthers wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin, who's having an outstanding year. You know, that was Jameis' go-to guy last year.
Ken Shaw also.
They lost a lot of pieces to the NFL, and I think that was the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team. I think Oregon is explosive on offense. They still run that Chip Kelly style system, and Marcus Mariota's played the best college football of anybody in the country this year. And I think Oregon will win. It'll be very high scoring. And Jameis Winston, you know, he does have that fight in him. He's not going to go down without a fight. He's very competitive, and he's the reason why they are undefeated to this point. So I think they'll still put up probably 28 to 30 points, but I think Oregon will be somewhere in the 40s, and they'll probably score with a late score to make it the game not look as close as it will be. I do think it'll still be a competitive game, but I have Oregon winning late.
Personally, I'm going with the champs, the defending champs. I'm going with Florida State. Now, before the ACC championship game, Jimbo Fisher went to Jameis Winston and said, I'm going to take the ball out of your hands just a little bit, and I'm going to run the football. They have a fabulous freshman down there, and they committed to run the football. And I think they'll be able to commit to run the football here. I'm off to prepare Jimbo Fisher, great coach. Keep Mariota off the field just enough. Let Jameis Winston make plays and play action and some of those underrated young receivers. And I think they'll be able to keep pace with them. It may be not as high scoring as people think. I think Oregon's defense is a little underrated, and I think Florida State's athletes showed in the second half of that Georgia Tech game, stopping the triple option, being able to stop some athletic, plays with the option and quarterbacks that can run. And I think that Mariota's offensive line has helped out a lot. He's sitting back there, booking his taxes, looking to see what team he's going to in the draft because he's just sitting back there all day to throw, and they have great athletes as well. But I think that Jimbo Fisher, Jameis Winston, until I see them get beat, I cannot think against them. As much as they played bad all year, I think in the biggest stage, the big players show up. And I think the last year's Heisman Trophy will show this year's Heisman Trophy winner, how it gets done. And I think Florida State will win about a 3-point game. I'll say about 28, 25 in that range, something. And I think
25 for the Oregon
I think
offense.
that it's not going to be as high scoring as people think. Everybody thinks it's
They
going to
have
be
a
a shootout.
terrific freshman running back too, Royce Freeman.
They do. But I think
Oregon has a lot of terrific pieces on that offense.
Yeah.
They're explosive.
But Jameis Winston covers a multitude of sins, as I like to say, and he gets it done.
And I wanted to say something about Jameis Winston, and I just was coming into this year with everything that happened to him in the offseason, everything he went through. I really didn't. I was off the Jameis Winston bandwagon completely, but this kid, man, when you put him between the lines, he's a different animal. It just doesn't matter what's going on. That kid's going to play, and he's going to play his heart out. So I think Jameis Winston deserves a boatload of credit for the season he's had. Maybe not as good statistically, but when you look at everything all together, man, this kid's he's special. He's special. I sign me up if I were an NFL team that needed a quarterback. Sign me up to take this kid
He's
tomorrow.
probably the most NFL ready as
Yeah.
well. Intangible size, throwing ability, pocket presence. He's the best. He's the most NFL ready. He's more NFL ready than Marcus Mariota is, who's climbing up draft boards with his performance in this college football season.
Jameis just gets out of his own way off the field. I think he's going to be something to watch in the future.
So I think Florida State's going to win it. I know they're under underdogs. I don't know how many times we said that. I think Florida State gets it done. So championship game, who do you have winning, Shabazz?
Nah, this is a tough one. You're going to have Alabama versus Oregon. It's going to be, I think I'm going to roll with the Roll Tide. I feel like, Nick Saban, his coaching job he's done this year after the devastating kick six loss that he, took to Auburn.
War Eagle.
But I think just the physicality of Alabama over Oregon will put them over. I think it's going to be a great game. So one for the ages, Mariota, that speed of Oregon versus that power Alabama. But I think in overall, probably a 41-34 Alabama win. in the national championship game. And I think that's how the college football playoff will conclude.
Chris, what do you think, Six?
I think Alabama, because I've been saying all year the SEC is the best conference in football, and I don't think it's that close. I really don't. I think that if you put all these teams together, I do think the SEC is the best. And so when you win the SEC, you're going to be my pick. Alabama with Nick Saban. Blake Sims, if you watch the Iron Bowl, Blake Sims looked terrible early. He was about to get taken out of the game, and he settled in. But Blake Sims is he's a poor man's Jameis Winston that can overcome adversity in between the lines when you need to make things happen. He has this season. He's got the best receiver in the country. His defense is very physical. I think this will be the low-scoring game that we would see in the tournament. I would say 24-20 Alabama. So yeah, I would roll with the Tide in the SEC.
Darian, who you going to rock with?
I'm also going with Alabama to win the national title. The SEC, I think, is the best conference, but I don't think it's the deepest conference. I think the Big 12 might have something to say about that, maybe even Pac-12, because the SEC West is the power conference in the SEC. The SEC East has Missouri winning, and they're not really that good, as Alabama showed. So I do think Alabama is better than Oregon, and I think that the balance that they have on offense is going to be what leads them to the national title. It's going to be a very close game. I'm going to go probably 34-31 Alabama.
Well, personally, I think that it's the matchup that I've been wanting to see for the past 2 seasons. I would have liked to have seen it last year, but Auburn did beat Alabama. And it's going to be Jameis Winston, Alabama, and Florida State. And I'm going to go Florida State.
Wow.
I think Jameis Winston, you talk about a leader of men, a guy who can get guys to rally behind him. I think he's going to be able to find some mismatches in that Alabama secondary, a little bit of weaknesses. And I think that Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, great coaching matchup. But I think he'll be able to outplay Blake Sims. I think he'll be able to contain Amari Cooper enough. Maybe a lot of
I don't
bracketing.
think so.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be able to get it done.
So you're taking the student in Jimbo over the teacher in Nick Saban.
Yeah.
In a sense, I guess so. I think he's just been able to get it done. I mean, he's got a great quarterback, and I think their relationship is very important.
He has a great quarterback. I don't think he has a great much of anything else.
There it is.
They're a talented football team, but they're not anywhere near as talented as Alabama. And I think Alabama will be able to control the line of scrimmage against Florida State on both sides of the ball because, again, as I mentioned, they lost some defensive pieces to the NFL. That offensive line has struggled at times. Jameis has been under fire. He's made some mistakes under pressure this year. And I think they haven't necessarily been able to be exposed because they play in the ACC, which is probably the weakest of the Power 5 conferences. So I think those weaknesses that have been shown but not fully taken advantage of, Alabama will be able to effectively beat them based off what I've seen this year from Florida State.
I just think their commitment to run the football will help them in this college football playoff enough. Balance it out a little bit, play action. Jameis Winston will be able to get it done. And he's underrated with his athletic ability. I know he's not known as running, but rather stay in the pocket. But I think Jameis Winston will be able to put a team on his back and show why he's one of the best players. He's definitely going to have to.
Be coming from.
He's definitely going to have to get it done. But that's just what we think here about the college football playoff. Can't wait to see it play out.